Hello, today we're going to go over how to use Illuminate and the item bank to create an assessment, how to also create items or questions within the item bank, and then how to share that assessment with your PLC. First, I want to give credit to WAM's teacher, Michael Watkins. He put this together, and you'll be able to find this document and several others if you either use a QR code scanner or go to this bit.ly. I'll zoom in a little bit closer. So again, the QR code scanner, or go to that bit.ly. It's a number 1, lowercase w, capital LT, lowercase EW, and uppercase or capital Y. If you go to that bit.ly, it's going to take you to a Dropbox that has several items in it regarding Illuminate Item Bank. All of these items are PDFs from Illuminate themselves, such as creating a constructed response. But what Michael did was organize it all and make it very easy to use. So thank you again to Michael Watkins. We're going to kind of follow his steps for how to go into the item bank and how to then create an assessment and an item bank item. So first thing you need to do is sign into Illuminate. Remember the usernames have changed now. So it's first_last. Today we're going to be using 3rd grade teacher at Jackson, Janelle Reed's account. Thank you very much, Janelle. And this is what you should see when you're in. You'll see your dashboard with your students' data, anything that you've made. You can also, at this time, add widgets if you want to, but we'll cover that another time. First thing you're going to go is go to assessments. Now, there's a couple of ways to get into the item bank. The easiest is just to go find the little tab that says item bank and click visit item bank. You can also create a new item bank assessment, but we're just going to click on visit item bank. That's going to shoot you over to the item bank, which is a portion of Illuminate, but different than the Illuminate that you go to access data. It's where you create assessments or items. If you haven't been here before, it might ask you to do some different technical things. If you have, it'll just tell you welcome. At any time, you can return to Illuminate, which is where you'll later on find these assessments. So we're just going to click create, and we're going to choose a new assessment. We're going to start big for right now. Now, later on, we might find that this assessment we're creating, we're not finding all the items within the item bank, that we want to make a new item or a new question ourselves, and we'll go over that. But for right now, we're just going to click new assessment. Okay, so we're going to just name it Parts of Speech Sample. Notice that the name is mandatory, but the description is not, and I'm going to click create. Okay, so up at the top, there are these little, not tabs per se, but buttons. Details, adding items, reviewing, overview, and so on. If you would like, you can hop around through those, but the easiest way is just to follow the flow that it gives you, and then each time you've completed one aspect, to hit continue over here. The first thing you're going to have to do is assign or link standards. So the best bet is just to choose the Common Core state standards, as opposed to the California Common Core state standards. There seems to be more items within this bank itself. So just that first Common Core, choose your subject. We're going to do ELA today, and it is 3rd grade. And then you'll see my standards are loading. Now, if you have a particular keyword that you know is going to be in the standards, you can type that there, but if you're not quite sure or you just want to see the list of them, you can leave it blank. So right now they're all collapsed. If you use these little arrows, you can uncollapse them or expand them. And because this is parts of speech, I'm going to go down to language. Now, within this whole language, you can see that there's 603 items or questions. So that's obviously too much to look through. So I'm going to go through specific aspects. And I want this one, explaining the function of nouns, pronouns, etc., the parts of speech. So I'm going to link it, and you can see when I do that there's a little chain link that adds to it. If you want to assign multiple standards, so for example, I also want to link abstract nouns, whether they can not only identify the more normal everyday nouns, but also those abstract nouns, or if I want to add plural nouns or verbs, or verb tenses. I'm just going to leave it with those 4. You can see off to the side that it says that I've linked 4 standards and it tells me what they are. And if I'm all done with that, I'm just going to click continue. So it tells me that my assessment has been created. And right now I have a test, but no questions, no items on it. So here's where you can use this item bank. Yours might be different. These are the ones that you have created up at the top, and then the inspect item bank, and then any that have been created within Sanger Unified, possibly by other teachers. You can do these. You can even link all 5, but those 3 are the best. You can also select an item type, which we'll get into in a little bit. The examples are the multiple choice, which is just the ABCD. The non-traditional, which could be a select all that apply, a true false, a yes no, selectable text. I'll show an example of that in a little bit. Select a drop down. We'll go through each of these in a little bit. So I'm just going to say that, yes, I would like all of these. Probably not a math equation on an ELA test. But. Okay. Now, the other thing is whether you would like to look at all 4 standards at the same time. Michael Watkins actually was the one that told me it would be a good idea to just look at one standard at a time, which you can just unclick those that you don't want to. And that way it makes sure that you are actually assessing each and every standard as opposed to listing all 4 and looking at all 4 or all questions that could be a part of all 4 standards. Now I know that I'm going to hit each and every standard. So if they haven't popped up already, you can click search. It's your choice whether you want to go through the rest with or without passages, if you have a specific keyword or an identifier, but I'm just going to search from here. And so it shows me that there's 36 different items or questions that have been found. Now it's just a matter of you looking through and choosing which ones you like. For the sake of time, I'm just going to choose a couple for this standard. Go down to maybe page 4. Wait patiently as it loads. And here's where I'll show you some of the different types of questions or items. Again, wait patiently. Thank you. This is one of those selectable text. So as the student reads, they would be given choices, and I'll show you what it looks like on the student version. They would be given choices to select the underlined word that is a verb, and it tells you with the gray and the yellow which is correct versus these are the 4 choices that are selectable. So I'll add one of those. This is a selected drop down. So they are able to, from these choices, pick A, B, C, D. It's, again, just one answer, but it's a different way of doing it. And these are some of the questions that are only available if the students are doing online testing. If you make a test and then print it out paper pencil, you can still use these questions, but it would appear just like a normal multiple choice A, B, C, D answer. So I'll do 2 of those. This is one of those just typical multiple choice. That very first one was actually the best option for the non-traditional multiple choice. So I'll go back to that. It was a check all that apply. So non-traditional selected response. So I'll add that one. And it says that I have 8 items, and I haven't done a good job of showing you to go back to add one of those other standards. So now I'm just going to, again, the sake of time, find other questions so I can make a nice, pretty assessment that has 10 items. Again, up to you. So here's another one of those non-traditional selected response. There's a lot of those. Selectable drop down, and we'll go from there. Again, you would obviously take more time to really look at those questions, be a critical consumer, see which ones you and your PLC like, make sure that you're covering all the standards, that you have a good variety between multiple choice, selected drop down, selectable text, or the non-traditional if you want to go that route, and then just hit continue. When you see a review, you're going to see all the questions in just the order that you selected. You can mix them up. So it's just going to kind of randomize the questions. You can also randomize the answer choices. So you can see that the correct answer was A. If I move it around, now it's D. So if you notice that the first couple questions are all A, you might want to move those around so it changes up the options or the choices. Another way of seeing this is in the overview. It gives you that first couple lines of the question, tells you the standard, and then tells you the type of question. So multiple choice, selectable drop-down, selectable text. And if I want to mix them up, say I want these non-traditional more spread out, or I don't want two multiple choice back to back, and I want to move one of the selectable drop-downs up here, so you can move them around like that. The next portion is the booklet. This is kind of hard to understand unless you really have seen it. You can make the question spacing larger. It might just be a matter of playing with what works best for you and your grade level. The choice spacing, making it a little bit larger or smaller, or how much space they would need to circle or bubble in answers. If you do it on the computer, they're going to see just one question at a time anyhow, so it'll be a little easier. But you may want to make the font bigger if you were to print it out paper pencil. But again, some of this is hard to really imagine what it could look like until you see that booklet itself. So you can generate that booklet to kind of test it, decide, no, I want it larger or smaller or what have you, and then go back and generate it again. For the sake of this, I'm just going to click continue. And the last step here is just to publish it. So publishing the assessment will finalize it. It'll lock it. You can't make any more changes. So before you publish, make sure that you and your PLC agree on the order of the questions or whether they cover all the standards and all of that to make sure it's a real true assessment that you'd like to give to your students, and then hit publish. When you publish it, that's what sends it to the Illuminate item bank. The Illuminate test bank. So now back to Illuminate, return to Illuminate. And so within this, it should take you right here, but if not, you can go assessments, list assessments, and it'll give you this filter. Now, I've already clicked those, but you can also just clear all filters and then select you or me. So select author as me because you've created it. You can also do the year, but if you haven't created a bunch of tests, you can just select that one and it should filter out everything else. If you're someone who's created a bunch of tests, you might need to filter out by year or grade level or what have you. This is that test that I just made. So the parts of speech sample, and actually that was one I made prior to this to really test. This is the one I just made. So you can click on that and it tells you that there's 4 linked standards. You can click on it to see what those standards are, how many questions. So you can see this was very heavily weighted in this first one, and you probably wouldn't want that. You'd want it more spread out. So prior to publishing, that's when we would have fixed all of that. And right now, there's no students that have taken this assessment. In order to do that, I'll post one more video about how to take the online portion. But if you're just doing the paper pencil, this is where you would make that test booklet and it would generate it. It does sometimes take a while. So, oh, there it is. That one was quick. And here's what the parts of speech sample test looks like in paper. So it's 1 page back to back. You'll notice that some of those drop-down menus, there's obviously not a clickable menu because it's a paper pencil, so it looks more like a standard multiple choice, but they do still have that selected response. The choose all that apply, the non-traditional. So select the underlined verb that is the word that is a verb. So it's a little bit different. I think this was one of those selectable text ones where they can't obviously click on the text. So this is how it's kind of formatted for the paper pencil. But back into Illuminate, you can do that paper pencil. You could even print out some answer sheets if you wanted to do it with the grade cam. Your other option is the online testing, which I will make a whole other video for the online testing to show both the teacher and student side to it. But there's one last thing, and that's the sharing. So in order for example, this was Janelle at 3rd grade at Jackson. In order for her PLC members to also view and administer this test, you have to share it with them. So you could share with everyone in the whole district, with just people at your site, just people at your role, so all teachers, or at your grade level. I'm going to choose site and grade level. So that would be Jackson and then third grade, so that all the third grade Jackson teachers can view and download. And then I'm also going to click can administer so that they can administer this test to their students. Okay. And there you have it. Again, I will post another video on how to do the online portion. If you have not already, I strongly suggest going to Michael Watkins's document here, again, at this bit.ly. So this link here, and each of these, he was really creative in doing this. Each of these is a link that actually takes you to the help documents and PDFs from Illuminate. So we covered this first portion, how to do the assessment itself. I didn't get to the item bank item. I will do a separate video for that because this one already ran long, and we'll go from there. Thank you.